In a bit of pain?
Yeah, I am in a little bit of pain today.
Yeah, right. What did you do at the gym?
I spent 35 minutes on the treadmill.
Wow. Cardio.
And then did abs. Yeah, that's rare. I haven't been for like 3 weeks, so.
Well, there you go.
She's a bit sore. And it's time of the month as
She's
well. So
that combo.
Just the combo. Yeah, it hurts.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
Hello everybody.
We have a guest today, Andy.
Hi guys.
DIY Calisthenics, who is probably the best way to know him because that's his Insta handle. So today we're going to have a bit of a chat about some gym stuff, some mental health, and Andy's going to tell his story, which we might just start crying, but that's okay. So basically we're going to start it by just chatting about how girls are in the gym, because I think it's quite an important subject to talk about, especially because, you know, it's so common for girls to be in the gym now, and like I think a lot of guys kind of just, I find that they judge girls and be like, you know, you're kind of looking too strong or you're looking too big, and I'm like, I feel like it's not just about the way they look, like I think it's a lot
more about how we feel.
Yeah, like I do it because I want to be strong and I want to like just look a certain way for sure, but like it's all about strength and confidence for me.
Yeah, I mean, how you look is just a bonus, really.
Yeah.
But it's more about how you feel.
But there's certain guys that are like, well, you got big shoulders, and I'm like, thanks, like, are you sad about your own? Like,
get off it, mate. Get off it.
Like, girls can't just grow an ass, like they're gonna grow everything else. So
yeah.
But I think it's like a quite a big thing now in society for girls to be killing it at the gym. Yeah. Which we love. But like obviously you do classes and stuff like that, which is a bit different.
Yeah. I definitely try to do classes just because I lack motivation a lot. Like I said, I haven't been in 3 weeks.
Yeah, she's had a
bit of a shocker. I've had a bit of a shocker.
But motivation is hard for girls as well though. Like,
yeah. I'm tired all the time.
You are.
Though.
Like, you're always sick as well.
I'm always sick. I'm always tired, and that's always my excuse. I like finish work at 4:30, and I'm like, nah. Yeah. I want to go home and go to bed. If I didn't have to come here, I would have gone home and I would have gone straight to bed.
And I think that's something that I think obviously, like, I met Andy through gym, which has been amazing. I was obviously new to Crunch in DY, shout out. And I met Andy, he approached me and he's like, you have such a nice smile, like you're such a nice person, like I want to get to know you. And I was like, hi. Like,
which is very rare, because you look like a bitch all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. I said that too. I was like, do I look a virtual? And yeah, so I think having met Andy kind of really helped my confidence, and like meeting new people in the gym is hard, especially when you're a girl, because you kind of just keep to yourself, I think. Yeah. So having Andy there was great, and he obviously tested my patience and he tested everything about me, like, you can do more, you can lift heavier. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't want to do this, like it's too hard, like I'm going through a breakup, it sucks. And then I think, like, you told me your story and I was like, shit, I actually can't complain. Like,
your problems are like minute.
I was like, oh my god. And I think people need to hear it, especially because, like, again, like, obviously Brooke says motivation is hard, and like being sick and stuff like that, and obviously like you go through so much, and I think it's inspirational, but it's also like, oh my god, get yourself off the couch and actually do something. So why don't we start with like introducing you and what you do?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Andy. I'm a 41-year-old retired school teacher, former professional tennis coach. I am a recovering addict, and I also have multiple sclerosis.
You do.
And I am a member at Crunch DY, and that's where we met, of course. Yes. And this is kind of where I'm at in my life. So
wow, and you have a daughter.
And I have a daughter. Yeah, she's 4.5, and
little angel.
She has been my life support over the last couple of years through a really tough time. So
yes.
Yeah,
she's beautiful. So multiple sclerosis, kind of talk us through that. Like, what does that entail?
Well, It's called the invisible disease. It's really difficult to explain because it looks different for everyone.
Yeah, okay.
So for me, it started with my first episode, I think back in 2018.
Yeah.
And that's when my left eye just went sideways and the other one stayed straight. It was really bizarre. And that episode lasted for about 6 weeks, and I had MRIs and lumbar punctures and a whole lot of different things. That lumbar puncture went really bad, by the way.
Wow.
That kept me on the bed laying prone for like a week. I couldn't move because there was a bit of leakage. There was spinal fluid leaking out of the incision
wow.
they made.
Oh my
So
God.
I had like one of those really bad spinal headaches. And that was brutal. I had to go back into hospital, get a blood patch where they patch up the hole. And it was brutal. So that was 2018. They thought that it was MS back then, but you need at least 2 episodes to be able to diagnose it.
Right.
And and the other one eventually came around, I forget the timing of it, but it was around about the time I was in rehab.
Right.
Which is what I'll talk about
Yeah, of course.
in a moment.
Right.
So if you'd like, I can share a little bit of my story with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
And before we go straight into, the stories of hot plating Coke and racking up lines of endless Ritalin and 2 litres of whiskey a day.
Wow.
And, the sex and the porn and the pain and the shame and the guilt and the lies and the devastation and destruction I caused to other people and families. The levels of rock bottoms that I had and what led me to getting caught, having my daughter taken from me, and then eventually going into rehab, and then getting discharged from rehab and admitted to hospital in my 3rd week. And my journey since then through recovery. So,
of course.
Yeah, so to ease into that, I'll just trace it all the way back to my upbringing. I was brought up in a Christian home by beautiful, loving, caring parents. There's no dramatic story of childhood abuse or trauma for me. There's no DV stories in there. I had a beautiful childhood. I still have my faith today, my faith in God, and Jesus is my higher power, because in the 12-step program, you have to have a higher power. And, I always grew up sort of not straying too far away from the path that I thought I was supposed to go on. I was always trying to be a good role model and a good leader for others. I was the guy at all the parties that would lay off the drugs and lay off the alcohol so that I was there to take care of everyone that was absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
So I did that pretty much for the first 21 years of my life, and I took that responsibility very seriously, but at the same time, it weighed heavy on me.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 21, I thought, I'm just going to duck into my car, go travelling up and down the east coast of Australia for 4 months, and I just want to try a few things.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to try and get drunk for the first time. I see everyone do it. It must be good. So
you hadn't been drunk before this?
No. So when I was 21, got drunk for the first time. I didn't know what to do, so I just drank 7 fluoro-coloured vodka cruises in an hour.
Love that.
An hour?
And I knew that there was supposed to be like some tipsy, happy stage that you were supposed to get to. I completely
You would have
skipped that. And I went straight to just being so sick.
Absolutely.
And I was
Right,
wrecked for
yeah.
about 2 days after that.
And cruises are sweet too.
Yeah,
Like
they
that.
make you
Not only
sick.
is it the alcohol, it's the sweetness.
It was
on
in the
top of that.
summer. I was on a surf trip. I was dehydrated, and I
that's
just
even
sent
worse.
did it properly. So that was my first experience with alcohol.
Yeah.
On that same trip, I wanted to see what it was like to smoke pot for the first time. So the joint came over to me, and I didn't know how to smoke.
Yeah,
So
of
I
course.
didn't know how to
It's
withdraw.
it's a different thing to actually do.
So I thought I'll just attack it like I attack my Ventolin puffer.
Yeah.
So I just took the biggest, deepest breath I could, and just
Oh my God, you would have had lots.
Oh man, yeah, it really hit hard.
Yeah,
and I was
wow.
coughing, I was on the ground, I was burning on the inside.
Yeah, it hurt.
And then I experienced what it was like to be high, and it was fun, lots of laughs and giggles, and then I got the munchies and the whole works, and then I got that paranoia that sets in, and I hated that because I've never been paranoid my whole life.
Wow.
And that's what I wanted to mention. Like my whole life, I've never had depression, never had anxiety, never had, cases of bad bullying or anything like that. I've had a pretty peachy life.
Yeah.
Never had any real problems.
Yeah.
So I'm the least likely of people to end up where I did.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that leads me to, I was 21 at that time. I got married when I was 25. I was married with my wife for 14 years.
Wow.
And when we separated, my daughter was 2 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just drifted apart in the marriage. There was distance there. Our work lives meant that we were kind of like ships in the night. We didn't get to see each other that much.
Yeah,
we were doing
of
all
course.
the right things. We were making money. We were saving money. We were paying off mortgage.
Yeah.
We were doing all the right things.
Yeah.
But I take full responsibility for not keeping things spontaneous and spicy
Yeah.
and being on the front foot with just making sure that we were putting each other first and not letting everything else get in the way. So
Which you lose sight of, and it's only something that you can see, you know,
Yeah.
down the track. Like,
Yeah.
once it's kind of ended, that's when you're like, oh, like I could have done more.
that's right. Hindsight gives the greatest
Yeah,
insight.
of
So looking
course.
back now, you know, I can think of so many times where I should have just, you know, altered my lifestyle to, you know, get things back on track. But, you know, I got complacent and we got to that stage where, you know, she said that she wanted to move on and I just didn't see that coming.
Right.
Never in a million years. That was December 2019.
So it was a bit of a blindside.
Yeah,
You weren't ready
massive.
for it?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I thought even though things weren't perfect, that there would always be, you know, couples therapy or marriage counselling
Yeah.
or, you know, change of jobs, things that we could do to
Yeah.
get back on track.
Well, you're like, surely with your like religion as well, it's kind of like, you know, it's you stay together.
That's
It's-
right,
you-
till death do us part.
Yeah, exactly.
So that
it's,
was
it's very, you know, that's a big thing.
yeah. So when it happened, it rattled me
Yeah, of
really
course.
hard.
Did she not think of that? Like, did she not think of trying couples therapy? Like, or was that just her decision and that's
I think
what
it
she
was
made?
already too far gone.
Right.
I think she
Yeah.
had probably already had too many conversations with me and dropped too many hints, and I was just too slow in acting out
Right.
Yeah,
my
of
words.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you
So
just didn't know that was going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So yeah, those feelings of rejection, replacement, and abandonment, I've never had before in my life.
Yeah.
Because I've lived a pretty
Experiencing
peachy
them at
life.
An
Yeah.
older age, which is kind of like shit.
Yeah.
So I realised at the age of like 37 that I really had zero emotional intelligence to sort of manage those emotions and identify those feelings. Not only that, I didn't know that there were people I could speak to and groups and
course,
meetings and
yeah.
I didn't know that men had feelings
Yeah.
and men had emotions and that we
Yeah.
could speak about them.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one in the world going through it. And of course, with my upbringing, I felt a deep sense of guilt and shame
Yeah, of
that
course.
my marriage had ended, and
Yeah,
I was a
big
marriage
deal.
celebrant too at the time. I've done
wow.
like 12 or 13 different weddings, and now here I am.
Wow.
My wedding is over. My marriage is over.
Yeah,
So
right. So did that mean that she just left and she took your daughter with her, or like what
Nope.
happened there?
no, everything was peaceable at that point. Because I had never been a drinker or a drug taker.
Right.
It was just that time when I was 21. I
21.
wanted to try it.
Of course. So it was kind of just a custody kind of thing, like you.
Yeah, it's all 50-50. It was,
Yeah.
it was
Sweet.
fine. But I was heartbroken and I didn't know how to deal with those feelings.
Yeah.
And I was executing the keep it private till it's permanent sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And, living in denial, believing that we would get back together, that she would come
Right. So
back.
you were kind of hopeful of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
right. Okay.
I never ever thought that she would leave and stay gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, of course, after 14 years. That's
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a long
14
time.
years.
Yeah. Plus our daughter was 2 at the time.
Yeah.
So during that month of January, I went to see a counsellor and I spoke as best I could, but I remained in denial.
Okay.
He saw the writing on the wall. He saw it for what it was, and he was trying to move me into the next stage of my grief and loss,
Yeah.
so that I could deal with it. And after I gave a little bit of pushback on that, I stopped seeing him because I didn't want to go to that next stage. I refused to believe that it was over. And that's
Yeah,
when
okay.
Of
that's
course.
when my inner addict came out.
Right.
That was really the turning point, when I stopped seeing him.
Yeah,
Because I listened
okay.
to that voice inside of my head saying, you know what you need to do to help deal with these feelings for now before she comes back.
So like it's just a temporary,
like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was diagnosed with ADHD and I knew the effects the Ritalin had on me, and they gave me a false sense of well-being. They gave me a little bit of confidence, and I knew how they worked on me. I knew that if I took a little bit more than what was prescribed, they could, give me a bit of a rush at the half hour to 45-minute mark, and that was good. I liked that feeling. It made me feel like everything was going to be okay.
Yeah. Right.
So I immediately went to a new psychiatrist, and I lied to him, and I lied my way into getting the maximum prescribed amount of Ritalin, which is 200 tablets every 2 months. That's a lot of speed.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I was able to get different types as well. And I remember the day I got it, I immediately started abusing it. Yeah. My prescription was 1 to 2 tablets daily as required.
Okay.
And I immediately took 12 straight off the go, and then I started to break open the little capsules of the slow release ones, and I would tip all the little balls out, and I'd start crushing them up in the mortar and pestle, and then I'd start snorting those as well.
Wow.
And that goes hand in hand with alcohol, because the stimulants, they really hype you up and rev you up, and the alcohol sort of takes the edge off, makes you not quite as anxious, and it also helps you sleep at night.
Right, so you were kind of struggling to sleep before that? Like, do you reckon?
A little bit. I started to have a lot of nightmares because of the trauma of it all.
Yeah.
And just not having an outlet, not speaking to anyone about it, and living in denial.
Yeah.
And so that's the beginning of my substance abuse, drug addiction, and alcoholism.
Right.
And that was at the end of January, which started 15 months of that for me.
Wow.
It wasn't long after that where COVID hit, lockdowns came in,
and that would have made it so much worse.
The gym closed.
Yeah,
which
meant, so you've always been in the gym? You've always kind of been into fitness?
Yes,
okay.
And so the fact that Crunch was closed meant that I couldn't go and work out, and I couldn't be around people.
Crunch is a very safe place for you.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of the only community that I had at that time that sort of made me stay sane to some point.
Yeah.
Because I was bottling up so much hurt.
Yeah.
But at the gym, I could kind of forget about it.
It was like a distraction.
And people were there.
Yeah.
You had people
and
around.
you had support.
Yeah. And I was high, but I was still functioning okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And you just you would have looked normal. So like an average person, if I saw you at the gym, you would have seemed fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yep. But then when we went into lockdown, that's when I really started to hit everything harder.
Okay.
I started to experiment with other drugs that I could get on the street as well, and mix it all together and just see how it affected me, and see if it would make me feel better, because that's the whole point of drugs and alcohol, to change the way you feel, and that's really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the plan was just to use it temporarily until she came back.
Yeah, right.
But of course, the more I took, the more of a tolerance I built up to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it got worse and worse. And then when we had to sell our home, which was another huge, devastating separation for me, because I was so connected to that home, that took me to another level of use again as well. So I wasn't into cocaine just yet, but when we sold that place and I moved into the new place, that's when my cocaine addiction started, and I actually christened my new home with a coke party. So, and it was at the end of that party I knew that I had become powerless to my addiction, and that life was unmanageable for me. I couldn't control it, because when everyone else left at like 3 a.m. And they went home and they tried to get some sleep, I didn't. I got on my hands and knees and I crawled from one side of the room to the other, just searching for scales on the ground, drinking everyone's leftover drinks. There's vapes everywhere, and just going straight to the mortar and pestle, and then licking the bottom of sucking the edge of all the credit cards that we were using to chop up and line up. Just sucking the base of the fry pan that we were hot plating on.
Wow.
I was desperate. And
like you felt like your body needed it, like you kind of like didn't really It wasn't like you wanted it, your body was kind of craving it. Like
Yeah.
something,
Yeah, that's right. Because those feelings just kept on getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
They wanted to come out, and I wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry
Which
all the time.
does happen. Like when you do have so much alcohol, you get so emotional. So I'm guessing like
The mixture
mixing
of
it
it all.
together, it's trying to come out, but you're trying to bottle it in, and it's just this massive
Yeah.
fight between emotion and addiction.
Yeah, that's right.
So how long ago was this? Like the Coke party, I'd say.
This would have been 6 months since she left. 6 months into my addiction. And then I had this new place, and when I realised that things were getting bad for me, that's when I thought, okay, I feel like I've got to reach out to one of my best friends now.
Okay.
And then I found out that he'd just been arrested and gone to prison. So I was like, what do I do now? Who do I speak to? And I was devastated. I felt like everyone was leaving me.
Yeah, you would have.
And he was the one person I thought that I could probably speak to about this, because he had been an alcoholic and dealt with a whole lot of trauma in his life as well. So yeah, that's when things escalated to another level again. I was really lonely.
Yeah,
that's when I started to meet up with different girls.
Yeah.
And I started to sleep with them. And can I just say, like, there's no name dropping here. There's no bragging about numbers or anything like that. I just want to say that they were lovely.
Yeah.
Because they knew where I was at, and they were very kind to me.
Yeah.
And
that's nice.
It wouldn't have been good for them, because when you're an addict, you're extremely selfish. It's all about what you can get, and you're a taker. And so it wouldn't have been good for them.
Okay.
But they were very kind to me, and so I just wanted to make sure I mention that, because there's obviously going to be friends and family and people listening to this, and people that are involved in my story.
Yeah, of course.
But things did get really bad after a little while, and I worked myself into a situation that became very dangerous, where I had my life threatened, and I just did a whole lot of damage to some people, and in the end I just banned myself from people, full stop. And that's when I drew the blinds, closed the doors, stopped showing up to training, stopped showing up to work. And because hurting people hurt people, and I just couldn't bear the fact that I was hurting people now, and that's where I was at. So that's when I settled into a routine of I was having 3 bags a day, I was having at least 20 pills a day, and I was drinking 2 litres of whiskey a day. And that's when I started watching a lot of porn as well. Yeah. I guess you would say it turned into a bit of a porn addiction, because you're taking so many stimulants. So you are, you're stimulated, you're turned on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was so lonely, so broken, and I was so desperate for affection and connection and intimacy. And I felt that I could get that genuine, authentic human connect through the screen.
Oh my gosh.
Which is just a hollow pursuit.
Yeah.
So, and all the guilt and the shame, that comes along with that as well.
Yeah, it's just a cycle.
Yeah, and then in the end, all of the drugs and alcohol that I was taking and the porn I was watching, it wasn't working. And I got to that point where I was like, either I've got to upgrade to crystal meth, which is going to buy me at least 3 months until it takes my soul, or I've got to do just cold turkey quit right now, because it was only a matter of time before, Pippi woke up one morning and found me laying on the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
So, on Wednesday, the 3rd of January, I went cold turkey. Wow. And stopped everything. And for the first 2 days, I was fine.
Yeah.
I was just really tired. But then on Saturday and Sunday, the withdrawals
really
hit hard. And I was in my bed for 2 days straight, just working through those withdrawals. And what that looked like for me was the worst spiritual, psychological, and emotional pain I've ever been in my life. And I felt like I was in the depths of hell, with the devil holding onto my feet and God holding onto my hands, and just playing tug of war for 2 weeks, for those whole 2 days. And that was a real torturous time for me. Just 2 days of torment and pain.
And you were on your own?
I had my parents come down, sit on the side of my bed, and also had my ex-wife at the time. She came and sat on the side of my bed. They were with me while I worked through those withdrawals. My daughter wasn't there to see what was going on, of course. But it was, not long after that, where, you know, I did end up getting caught with all those things under my roof. I wasn't using at that time, but I did, you know, go to rehab initially so that I could get my daughter back. And as I was in there, I started to realize that, I need to be in here for me, because I started to cry and I just didn't stop, and I started to work through all the pain through therapy. And coming to the end of my stint in rehab was when I went to hospital to get an MRI check, and that's when they found that I had MS.
Oh.
So, you know, I'd lost my wife, I'd lost my home, I'd lost my best mate to prison, I'd lost, 20 or 30 grand in drugs and alcohol. I'd then lost my daughter, and now I've just gained an incurable disease called multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
So I went into rehab to kick one monster, and I came out with another
one.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and when I ended up getting home, I just remember sitting at home, and it was so quiet and so lonely, and thinking, what am I going to do with my life now? You know, what does it look like? Am I going to be in a wheelchair? Am I going to be blind? Am I going to have a job?
That's the hardest with MS as well, is that you don't know. Like my mum's, her best friend's husband has MS, and that's only as of recently that he's just gotten that. And it's so hard because you don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
You don't know the effects of what it can do. And like you say, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And like, are you going to end up in a wheelchair, and are you going to be able to walk, or what stage are you going to be able to get to? And that's scary.
Yeah.
The unknown is scary.
Yeah.
On top of everything else.
Well,
that
on top
you
of everything that
obviously
you just
have
went
gone
through.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trauma there and a lot of hurt, and that's where, the 12-step program has really helped me.
Yeah.
So pretty much as soon as I got back home, I knew I had to get busy. And so, my week looks like, church on Sunday mornings, NA Sunday nights. I have a men's group. Actually, I've got work with my sponsor every Monday night. I've got my Chroma men's group on Tuesday night. Last year I had a walk and talk with a good mate of mine, Lukey, on Wednesday nights, and then I have a walk and talk on Thursday mornings with Sanj. And I've just got to be back to back all week, constantly.
You got to be busy, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Wow.
And I've been consistent with that. And at this point in time, I'm almost 18 months clean and sober.
Wow.
This is amazing.
So the future for me looks like no alcohol, no drugs, no smoking, just a life of sobriety. Because I know what those drugs and alcohol can do for me.
Yeah.
I know how it feels. And if I go back there, I know that, one won't be enough, and I'll have to have more and
it'll
more.
just go again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
So when you found out that you had MS, did you go back into that headspace? Like, obviously when you got home and was like, I can't catch a break. Like, did you think about touching drugs, and did you think about touching the alcohol again, or was this just a new thing that it's like, well, that's in the past, now I have to deal with this? Like, how did you deal with that?
Well, the MS is out of my control. There's nothing I can do.
No.
Can't take drugs to fix it.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of an easy one for me to deal with, mental health wise, because it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
That's my lot in life, and I've just got to work with it.
Yeah.
At the moment, my body's good. Today, it's good. So I went to the gym and I do everything I can today. But tomorrow, I might be foggy. I might have fatigue.
Yeah.
I might have numbness and tingling down the left side of my body. And then I'll have to take it easy. But I just have to constantly listen to my body. And control what I can, which is, clean eating, physical activity, get good sleep. And make sure my mental health is in check.
I think mental health is the most
a
important
massive
thing, because like a lot of, like, if someone else was a drug addict and found out that they had an incurable disease, they could turn around and be like, well, I'm just going to go back to taking drugs, because what's the point?
Yeah.
So you've handled that really well. Like, you've done
thank
really
you.
well.
Yeah, it's that's kind of been an easier one. I don't get triggered by people drinking and drugging around me. That's completely fine. But it's to say, Andy, you're talking too much. I get, my triggers are emotional triggers. Yeah. So when I get hit with something emotional, that's when I feel like an itch to immediately numb the pain, So I have to be careful when, I take a hit. And there's been quite a few since I came out of rehab. Just information that's come to my attention. I haven't been searching for it. It's just come my way. I didn't want to know that stuff, but now I know, and what I'm going to do with that. My first thought is, usually to just quickly deal with it. But now I call my people, I go to a meeting, I listen to some music, I do some mindfulness, I pray a prayer, I do whatever I can to make sure I stay busy and stay outside the house and stay around people. And obviously, very little screen time.
Yeah. I see you in the gym nearly 3 times a day some days, and I'm like, whoa. How are you doing that? It's crazy. Like, I think your mental strength as well as your physical strength for your disease is insane. Like, sometimes I look at you and I'm like, Andy, I don't think you, sometimes look at yourself and realise the stuff that you do. Like, I remember the other day we were doing squats and I was like, you can lift heavier than that. You're like, I do have MS. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then you did it and I was like, what? That's insane.
Confidence is an issue. Believe it or not, a lot of people think, oh, you're so confident in the gym, and I do my best to back myself and connect with people, but there are days where I do lack confidence, and
which you would not pick. Like, no one would see.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, I think I would never have guessed that you had such struggles in your life. Like, when I met you, you were just so positive, you were confident, and I was like, this guy is amazing, like, whoa. And then you told me what happened and I was just like, what? And you were like, oh yeah, that was like a year ago. I'm like, oh my God.
A year isn't a long, that's not that long ago.
I think it was just before a year sober that I met you, and I was just like, you would never pick it. Like, you hold yourself in a way that is just, it's even better than other people that have gone through things that I know. Like, it's so inspiring, and it's great that you can keep, still really be so confident in telling your story, because it is it's hard to tell. Especially when it's you've had someone leave you, which sucks, and it's hard to talk about. Especially when you're the person that went into addiction. Like, addiction's hard to speak about. And you just do it so openly, and it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's an important message for people to know, especially men, who, we're taught not to have feelings and emotions, and generally don't talk about this stuff. Because it is embarrassing. It is a little bit embarrassing talking about this stuff.
Of course.
But the amount of people that are going through stuff that we don't know about and they keep to themselves, it needs to be talked about,
Yeah, of course. And you do a fair bit of work with mental health.
Yes, I do now.
So what are you doing with, who are you working with? Things, aren't you?
At the moment, the first 12 months of sobriety, it's all about you, making sure you stay on track, don't pick up, keep going to meetings, keep working the program, keep doing the steps. After those first 12 months, the rest of your lifetime, it's about others. You first, and then everyone else. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm focusing on service and making sure I can help other people, have a successful recovery as well. So there's different meetings that I get invited to be a guest speaker at and share, and quite often they're topic talks where we pick a step or a tradition out of the 12 steps and we share on that. And then one of my favorite groups is going into Northern Beaches hospital to the rehab in there, and that's where we get to share our step 1 story, which is pretty much what I've shared with you guys tonight. In deep detail, where you go through absolutely everything, and you talk about how I understand where you're at, I've been at rock bottom too, and this is how I've been able to get out of there and make a successful comeback. And it's not that life's perfect now, because it's far from it, and it's not easy, but now I've got the structure and the boundaries that I need to keep me safe and moving in the right direction. You've obviously found comfort in the gym and in things that you are doing, which is, I think, the biggest thing. As long as you have, it's cool to have a distraction, but if you can find a safe place and safe people, I think it's the biggest game changer. When you feel safe with people.
And it'd be very fulfilling for you as well. Obviously, because like you said, you like to help other people. That's even before this all went down. So now you're just doing it with more of a purpose.
Yeah.
Like that would be very fulfilling for
Yeah,
you.
it really is. I feel a real connection to people that are going through pain, or trauma victims, or people in addiction.
Yeah.
And like I'd like everyone to know that I'm the guy you call when your world collapses, because I've been there, I know what it's like, and I know how to help you get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, don't keep it to yourself, don't bottle it up. Don't turn to all the things that I did, because,
Yeah.
you know, it may look like I've come out squeaky clean, but
Yeah.
there were consequences to all of my actions.
Of course, yeah, there
So,
always is.
yeah, I never glamorized those stories because they weren't pretty at the time.
No.
And yeah, I'm lucky to be here. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful
Yeah.
for this opportunity to come and speak with you guys tonight and share my story, and I really hope it
Yeah.
helps and inspires a whole lot of people.
It's
Definitely.
it's incredible. So like, what kind of advice would you give to males, young men especially, about mental health? Like, obviously you know that it's quite a stigma. It's a pretty negative stigma for men. So like, what would you say to them, for guys that are kind of sitting at home being like, I'm sad, I don't know what I'm feeling, like, and I'm just going to leave it like that, I'm not going to talk about it. Like, what would you recommend? What advice can you give to people
Talk
like
about
that?
it. Talk about it.
Right.
Communicate it. Yeah. And I know that that's difficult for men. I know for me, when something happens, I'm not ready to talk about it straight away. I have like a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
And I need time to process
Yeah.
what it is. So
Okay.
if something happens to me today, it might be this time next week where I'll be ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
I'll have figured it all out in my
I feel
head.
like a lot of males are like
think
that.
they need to process.
They need to process. They
Yeah.
need time to process stuff.
Yeah. So, but you have to talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
you can't keep everything under the rug, because it all builds up eventually.
Yeah.
And deal with resentments quickly.
Okay.
You know, confront all of those things that make you unhappy, or make you anxious.
Yeah.
Just confront stuff and live an honest life. Try to live with integrity.
Yeah.
And just talk about it.
Yeah, and you're quite open to people coming to you and obviously
Yeah.
talking to you about it,
Yeah.
which is big.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, you've been through a lot. Like, does it ever burden you? Do you ever kind of...
No, not at all, because I get a whole lot out of it too. You know,
Okay.
I learn more about myself through hearing other people's stories as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So, but I'm a huge advocate for therapy. You
Yeah.
know, group therapy, individual one-on-one counselling, whatever it is, because I've done a lot of that. I did 3 weeks in South Pacific Treatment Centre, which is the rehab here at Coco.
Okay.
I then went every Tuesday night afterwards to a relapse prevention program.
Okay.
I kept going until the second wave of COVID hit, and they told me I couldn't come in anymore. And so I waited for that to end, and then I went in for a 1-week course on love addiction, love avoidance, which was really good. That was just a week of psychotherapy, just men. Started with 9 of us, ended with 5 of us. It was very intense,
Yeah.
but it was good to sort of deal with all of those new issues that I had gained through my trauma, trust issues and avoidance and all that type of stuff. So, it all helps.
So what about, like, now that you're kind of, you're on the road to recovery, everything like that, you're obviously getting better and better as you move forward. Do you struggle now with intimacy? Like, can you develop relationships with, like, women? Do you see yourself wanting something with someone? Like, obviously after what happened to you, and losing a partner of so long, do you have certain, like, trust issues with women, or, like, are you actually quite open to wanting something?
Obviously, I'm very scared.
Yeah.
I'm very scared moving forward.
Of course.
But I definitely know that I want to move on.
Yeah.
I can see myself with someone else in my life, and I would love that.
Yeah.
I also know that it's all about timing, and I just
Yeah.
need to be patient.
Of course.
So and not to try force something that's not there.
Yeah.
And compromise.
Yeah.
So at the moment, the place I'm in, I don't have any love interests. I am single.
Nice.
At the moment, I'm just focusing on spending as much time with my daughter as I can before she goes to kindergarten next year.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's huge.
And just just growing and developing, and and when that time comes, I'll embrace it, and
Yeah.
I'll be all in, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's good that you're obviously have a positive outlook on it, because a lot of people that kind of get, you know, really hurt by a relationship. Obviously, we can't speak for 14 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be something that would be definitely so scary, and trust issues are a big thing, like especially if you just get blindsided.
Yeah.
Which is hard to recover from.
Yeah, but moving forward, like I definitely don't want to have any baggage from back there that I'm bringing into the new relationship. So that's what this time is all about. It's dealing with all of those things that could possibly, you know, creep up into my next relationship.
Yeah, right.
And I just want to make sure that they're all done and dealt with. And so it's important that I make amends with everyone in my life that I've done harm to, and that there's peace there, that there's no resentment, no hatred, and there's just open communication, and that all the relationships and friendships and partnerships are in a good place.
Yeah, right. And everyone's been very, you know, respectful of that. They're all happy.
Accepting.
Yeah, I think accepting, not necessarily happy.
Yeah,
that's
the word I was
about. But acceptance is the most important thing. Yeah, you know, because some people won't accept your apology.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but it's important that you go there anyway.
Yeah,
and do your part, and you try. Yeah, because the effort counts, and then you've done everything at your end to move forward. And
and if they don't accept it, then you've
it's
tried.
On them.
It's on them. That's right.
Yeah,
you've done what you feel is right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It's crazy stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you should never compare anyone's situations at all, but like, I think hearing your story and hopefully other people hearing it can kind of just give people that confidence and that, you know, be able to take that next step and be like, okay, I think I need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
It could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could just be like writing something down. I think listening to you and hearing that you've hit the rockest, like the lowest of rock bottom, and you're still like, there's so much more for me. Like you have obviously MS, you have everything. Like it's like people that complain about, you know, little things. It's like, again, no comparison, but to just hear your story is just, I hope people can take even the smallest bits out of it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
And I definitely think they do.
Yeah.
Like all the people that obviously are around you, or like the people that you touch, are just so positive. And it's so beautiful to see, especially with men's mental health. Like it's a massive.
And men's mental health is such a massive topic that needs to just be opened up. Like obviously with NRL, like Paul Green committing suicide and all of that stuff. Like it's a slow burner, but it definitely needs to be out there.
Yeah.
And like Riz said, having you speak about this stuff so openly, hopefully people can just take it even a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
But
that's all I hope for. That you know, the little bit of light I shine in the darkness. Is enough to sort of get people to take that first step.
Yeah. Of course. I think it's
that
so
first step that's the hardest as well.
It's the first part. Like, what do you reckon was your turning point? Like,
I was about to say, how did you because a lot of people who would be into like drug addiction, like,
cannot get out of it.
Don't normally have that turning point. Like what? How?
Or they say they're going to go to cold turkey. They do it for a couple of days, and then it goes back. Like, cold turkey is usually the hardest thing in the world. Like, what in your brain just like flicked? Like,
how did you
I'm doing it, and I'm doing it hard. Like,
it was 100% for my daughter.
Yeah,
she was my motivation. So I don't know how I would have gotten myself out of that if I didn't have her in my life.
Okay.
She was literally my life support. And a lot of people comment on my Instagram all the time, the bond that you've got with your daughter.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm like, it is on another level because she's the one that saved my life, you know? Because that's why. Because I knew that there was no amount of drugs and alcohol I could take to stop that pain anymore. So it was either I upgrade to the hardest stuff I could get, which would be ice, and
you just lose who you are.
I knew that would eventually take my life, or I just keep doing what I was doing, and I almost overdosed twice, and I knew probably the next time was going to be it, and I couldn't bear the thought of not seeing my daughter grow up and being there with her. And so I did stop for her, but then of course I was in rehab, realised I need to do this for myself, because
Yeah,
there's
of
so
course.
much hurt there, and those wounds are deep, and deep wounds need deep healing, and I
Yeah.
need to take this time to focus on myself.
Yeah.
So,
But
Yeah.
so I if obviously PIP was like the biggest reason for you to do it, and then you realise that it definitely needs to be about you, and it needs to be a focus of you, and which is great. But obviously having and knowing that you're affecting other people is a big thing that a lot of people don't really think about.
Yeah.
They kind of just be like, okay, I'm hurting and it sucks, and they get into this self-pity stage, and that's where they keep continuing down a snowball where it's like it just gets worse and worse because they're wallowing in self-pity. But I think obviously with you were like, nah, you've always been a people person, and having your daughter, like, that's obviously massive.
Yeah.
So
She was kind of all I had left at that stage.
Yeah.
And then when she was taken from me, that was it, That was
Yeah,
where that was the fork in the road, and I've spoken about this before, where at that fork I can either choose to be the victim in my story and just choose to sit in it, settle in it, and just live a meaningless little existence, or I can choose to be the hero of my story and stage an epic comeback against all the odds.
Literally.
And let's just see if we can't give life a good nudge and what I can do with where I've been and how far I've come.
Like, obviously the easiest way would have just gone the
Victim
victim
road.
way.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy.
It's easy to feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But your road for redemption is massive, and it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's the hard way, but it's the best way.
Like, it's just everything. Like, you obviously could be in a wheelchair and you're still not. Like, you are so strong in everything in your mind and like your body, and it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's why I'm at the gym so much, because while my body's working, I want to do as much with it as I can. Yes, that's right, because who knows what the future holds. So while I can move my body the way I can, I'm going to keep doing my tricks.
I mean, the way you move your body is ridiculous.
Thank you.
And everyone that I speak to is like, he's not 41. I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't guess. Like, you
That's
look
the
after
baby face.
Yeah. You look after yourself so well.
You do.
So, like, I think, would you say that fitness and like physical health is just as important as mental health? Like,
yes.
when it comes to recovery, when it comes to, fixing
The two
things.
kind of coincide with each other, don't they? Like, it helps.
Yeah, that was the hardest part about being in rehab for me, because we weren't allowed to do any fitness or exercise.
Okay.
They remove every opportunity you have to create another addiction.
Yeah,
So there's no sugar, there's no
right.
caffeine, there's no exercise, there's no technology, no TV, no phone, no music, no nothing. So that you can't escape your problems, you have to face them.
Deal with it.
Yes.
Head on.
So, I mean, not many people know this, but I used to take my showers in the disabled shower because it's a little bit bigger. Yeah. So I was able to bang out some squats and some burpees, some push-ups in the shower. Yeah, so I was able to get a little bit of fitness in. And we're allowed out a couple of times a day to go for a walk, for half an hour in a group.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as I got out of there, I knew that I had to get my fitness back on track, because it has a lot to do with how you feel mentally, how you look physically, and if you're unhappy with the way you look, you'll be unhappy with the that's right.
Yeah.
So it's important to look after yourself, and good hygiene and all that type of stuff. It's important.
You really just got to look after yourself
You
all
do.
round.
In every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was 77 kilos when I came out of rehab, and I'm now 66. Probably a happy place for me is about 68, so now I'm just tampering with my calories a little bit. But the drugs and alcohol, they really put it on me.
Yeah, right.
Gosh. It's crazy. Like, every time I hear your story, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, it's
There's
confronting.
definitely, it's 100% confronting.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, it's just like, whoa. Like, you hear stories of people that go through things, and then you just never really know them, though. Like, obviously I know you, and I'm like, oh my god, like, you are just such a positive person, and it's like, I strive
you wouldn't
to
really
have such
pick it.
You really wouldn't. You like sneakily just like tell people. I think you like snuck it in too. You were like, oh yeah, I used to be an addict, and I was like, what?
Sorry, we were just talking about something else, and now you want to tell me that you're an addict?
we were like working out, and you were like, oh, like, tell me about you, and I was like, okay, and I I was like, oh, like I broke up with my boyfriend, I'm really sad. And you were just like, yeah, like this happened to me. And I was like, oh, shit.
I'm gonna take my sad emotions about my ex-boyfriend.
I'm so sorry. And you were just like, no, like please tell me more. And I was like, this guy must think I'm such a sook. Like,
No, not at all.
and you were just, I think that was a big turning point for me in the gym to be like, oh my God, no, I want to really work on myself and like look after myself for me, not just because like I want to, you know, feel better about myself in my breakup and like, you know, look better because everyone wants to have a glow up. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was such a focus on looking after myself because I was like, oh my God, like.
Could have it so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus. And you just speak about it so comfortably as well. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I've been conditioned now.
Yeah.
Ever since rehab where you're just taught to go there and it feels so good. It feels so good to be able to speak openly and freely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had to wait at least 12 months before I, you know, share my story from a platform like this because in that first 12 months, you just got to be careful, you know, you're still early recovery.
Of course.
Yeah. And you don't want to fall into any type of murder by character assassination or, you know, let any resentment slip out or unresolved issues because there's still heaps there.
Yeah.
There's still more, you know, plenty of work to be done. But I feel like, you know, I'm in a good place now. And if I get an opportunity to share, I'm going to share.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you know.
So what do you do on those days where you kind of just feel just like down, where you kind of just like, today's hard? Like, what do you do? What do you tell yourself? What routine are you in? Like, what do you do?
I definitely stick to routine.
Yeah.
So you seem like a very routine person.
I have to. I
You've
can't
seen your
let
calendar
my
before and it's like
yeah, because there's ebbs and flows for everyone in life, and life doesn't get perfect as soon as you stop drinking and drugging. Like, it's now you've got to deal with stuff. You can't just have a drink every time, you know, something comes your way.
You just lay in bed. You just gotta.
Yeah, so I just stick to my routine, and I think the morning is the most important part of the day because how I do my morning will affect my mood
for the tone for the rest of the day.
Rest of the day, totally.
Yeah.
So in the mornings, I make sure, you know, like I have all those important things like my vitamins and my coffee, of course. But I do always start the day with a prayer, and often it's a prayer of thanksgiving.
Okay.
Even if I'm not happy with the way things are at that point in time, I always offer, you know, like thoughts of gratitude.
Yeah.
And yeah, from that point, there's a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of meditation. I do listen to a podcast or something each morning.
Yeah.
I read my books. I've got my big book, my good book, and my little book, and I make sure I, you know, read those and just get my head in the right place.
Yeah.
So do you find that it's important to be around people during those days? Like,
yeah.
Because a lot of people tend to shut off.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, oh, I've got
like,
which is like, it's not
deal with
bad if you want to have just a day to yourself where you just don't want to deal with people. But yeah, a lot of people tend to get into like a little bit of a hole and go, I don't want to do anything and I don't want to socialise. I don't want to see anyone. I just want to be in my hole.
Yeah. Yeah, there are times where if I'm well enough to be at the gym, I'd definitely be there when times are tough. A friend of mine committed suicide earlier this year and I found out while I was at the gym and all I wanted to do was run away and run home. But I thought that's not the place I need to be right now.
Yeah.
I need to be around people.
Yeah.
So, and then as soon as, you know, a couple of the others walked in, you know, like Gus and Mia and Charlotte, I just broke down in tears and just started bawling my eyes out in the middle of the gym. But, you know, I'm past the point of what people think about me when they see me emotionally.
Of course, you got to do what's best for you, and letting it out is so important.
Yeah, so that was just one example of a time I needed to be at the gym, and there's a million other times where I've had certain things come my way, and it's just like, I've just got to get to the gym. I've got to be around people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the people you surround yourself with, like, Gus is such a beautiful person. Like, he's always so happy about life, and he's had so many injuries as well, and he's just the happiest person ever. And I'm like, the vibe that you guys all have is so welcoming, and it's great. Like, even if I feel bad or I feel sad and I'll go to the gym, I don't even have to talk to you guys. I just see you, and I'm like,
sometimes,
it is infectious, and I'm like, that's so nice. Like, I know what you've all been through, and like, you never know what someone is going through. Like,
That's right.
and I think even if I don't want to talk to anyone, if I see it, I'm like, yeah, I feel comfortable because I feel safe. Like, I'm around the people I want to be around.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
On days where you just don't want to do anything.
And it's important you share those feelings and emotions with other people as well, because you might just, find out that they're feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that I've shared my story with someone, to the person that you would least likely expect to be going through anything in life, and they say, oh, well, you know what? I'm actually going through this. I've been battling with that. I'm struggling with this.
Opens
And it's like,
other people up.
It's crazy.
Everyone's going through something.
They are.
You're not the only
you
one.
Just gotta be, you really gotta know that and be like patient with people and just supportive of everything. Like, you are always going through something for sure, but so is the next person. And like, you should never be comparing it, but it's just always about, being there for the people that are happy to open up to you.
Yeah, and I love that what you've been saying about you shouldn't compare it, because it's, what I went through with my marriage breakup, that pain is equivalent of your first heartbreak when you're 13 years old at school. Like, it's
what you go through. It's how you feel it. Like, no one can ever tell you how you're feeling. And if you're upset, you're upset. Like,
that's right.
No one should ever take away
your
from
emotions are your emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Someone can tell you, oh, it's not a big deal, but if it is a big deal to you, then it is. Like,
it's a big
people
deal.
need to listen. And I think listening is such a hard skill for some people. Like, there's opening your ears, but then there's listening and actually actively listening. And I think that's a big thing for someone to just be like, yep, I hear you. Because you can soundboard someone, but to actually have someone listen to you is just even more, it's just better.
Yeah. And it's just such a simple act of kindness.
Yeah.
When you can just say, hey, I just want to listen. I'm not here to
That's
give
it.
you advice and tell you my 2 cents about
Exactly.
the situation. I'm just here to hear you out. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, which is amazing. And obviously that's the type of person you are. So, like, please, people, like, if you are dealing with stuff and you don't know who to go to and you live around the Northern Beaches, Andy is such an open person. Like, if you ever crunch DY, Andy is there.
He's always there.
Kendra, he's somewhere. You can message him at any time, I'm sure, and he will be there for you. And same as us, if it's girls, if it's guys, like, we're so open, and even just to have someone just listen to you is amazing. So definitely take something from today. Just take that first step, I think.
Yeah, it's that first step that's the most important and the hardest, but the most important.
But it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
When you can say, like, what you can say is that you can look back and be like, I did that.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it.
Yeah. And if you can be the first one to start the conversation or to help someone take the first step.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Be the hero of your own story, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
That's exactly what you've done. You've done
Yeah.
really
Thank
well.
you.
incredible.
It's
So-
amazing.
And I'm so grateful to have met you, and I think so many people are the exact same. Like, you've helped a lot of people, and you may not see it, but I definitely think you should know that.
Yeah, thank you. And you're all part of my support network, and I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for you guys. Knowing that you're always there, keeps me coming back and keeps me moving forward. So, yeah.
I'm so glad, and we're super proud of everything that you do,
Yeah.
and I'm just so happy to see what you do, and I'm always like, yay. Like, it's incredible.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
for coming.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been amazing,
Yeah.
and I really hope people can take even the slightest thing from this. 'Cause
Yeah.
it changed my life when I met you.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Might need to put like a little sensitive content warning at the
Yeah,
start
I
of
think so.
that.
Yeah, just a bit of a trigger. But yeah, so join us next week for another episode. But yeah, thank you so much for coming in,
Thank
Pleasure.
you, Andy.
and we'll see you guys next week.